Hey Ravens, welcome to another edition of Tarot Tuesday. Today is January 21st, 2020. And just a quick reminder before we get started that if you want to get more in-depth personal readings, your natal horoscope, various other things that I can do for you, you're going to have to head over to Patreon where you can find me at 9 Nights Wisdom, same as here on YouTube as well as on Facebook and Instagram. You get content there that you won't get anywhere else, the Night Sky newsletter, up to and including free personal monthly readings. So, check that out. In the meantime, the aspect that we're going to talk about today actually is going to be a couple days from now on the 23rd, which is Thursday. But kind of early in the morning, so sort of overnight Wednesday into Thursday. We have the Sun in Aquarius. The Sun. I really should have grabbed the rest of these cards. So let me look for them real quick while I'm talking to you about it. So you've got the Sun in Aquarius, and we've got Uranus in Taurus, and they're square to each other. And squares are a little bit different than oppositions in that with an opposition, two planets are trying to do the same thing in two different ways. With a square, which is the 90-degree angle, planets are trying to do two different things or provide you with two different energies in such a way that they work at cross purposes to each other. So the difference between them is that with an opposition, there's kind of a compromise, a middle ground that you can reach. Squares are a little bit more fraught with tension. They're a little bit more difficult, but they also offer tremendous growth potential. So, returning to the cards, we have the Sun in Aquarius, which is represented by the star. And then we have Uranus, the Fool, in Taurus, which is represented by the Hierophant. And for starters, this is a really interesting place for Uranus to be in kind of a negative would be a bad gloss, but in kind of a difficult way. Uranus is the iconoclast. It's the planet of changes and upheaval and rebellion, of looking at things through different lenses and doing them in a different way. And Taurus, as the Hierophant, is a card of traditions and the status quo, and of there being sort of a rule and an order of operations to things. So while Uranus is transiting through Taurus, what we're dealing with on the larger scale, because Uranus is one of those transiturnian planets that's more tends to be more collective than individual in its effects. We're dealing with changes to Taurus naturally rules the second house, so we're dealing with things that ultimately are changes to, socially speaking, the way we view material resources and how we measure, what wealth is and what value is and those sorts of things. And so we have the Sun in Aquarius, which is the sign that Uranus rules, squaring the ruler of Aquarius. Now, the Sun and the star together, as far as the tarot cards go, are an indication of potential shining through, following or living up to what one is, quote unquote, destined to do. We're dealing with just sort of like promise, sort of emanating forth, shining outwards. This is also a good time, though, while the Sun is in Aquarius, because it did enter Aquarius yesterday. The Sun in Aquarius is a good time to do new things in a group, because Aquarius is a humanitarian sign, and it is native to the 11th house, which is the house, among other things, of groups and friendships. So again, like I say, definitely a good time to embark on some either new projects with existing groups or to join new social circles, make new friends. The weather is, well, ideally would be starting to warm back up. The days are starting to get a little longer. This is a good time to sort of begin the first steps of poking our heads out from the winter and starting to allow ourselves to enjoy the light as it begins to last longer and longer, although it's still dark, much too early for my taste. Well, so these things are at cross purposes to each other because Uranus and Taurus is asking you to think of wealth and value in new ways, and the Sun is in Aquarius, asking you to embark on entirely new projects. So you have this tension between trying to do something brand new and trying to put a new spin on something old. Now, it's not to say you can't marry those two influences, but they're sort of working at opposite purposes. Because one is retrospective and one is prospective. One is looking back and the other is looking forward, which tends to leave you a little cross-eyed. So, having said all that, what's going on with the cards this week? So, with the Sun in a new sign, we're going to start with Aquarius, as is my custom. Hopefully you've gotten used to that by now. So once I get these put away and grab the other deck, we'll get started on the draw. First up, we have Aquarius, and Aquarius has the Queen of Wands. Aquarius Sun. And this is a good time. So the Sun is in your sign. We're dealing with energy that is very, very native to you. You're used to this. You know this energy. You live this energy. You are this energy, Aquarius Sun. And so it behooves you a little bit more to focus on doing what animates you, doing what you feel the most passionate about, the most excited about, but really taking command and ownership of your own energy and using it to direct the astrological energy rather than allowing the astrological energy to direct what you do with your passions. You are in charge here, or ought to be. So lean on that. But again, with the Queen too, there's something about the spark of creativity to this. So you're going to be leaning a little bit more on the new and the prospective things, I think, Aquarius Sun, for this week, rather than the retrospective and the older things. You're going to be doing a lot more generative work than reformative stuff. For Pisces, we have the Hanged Man. The Hanged Man in the astrology deck, the one I use for the other draws, is Neptune, which rules your sign. So this is a particularly, like with Aquarius Sun, this is an energy that, weirdly enough, although it doesn't involve any of your ruling planets, you will feel particularly at home is the wrong word, but you're going to have a strong sense of direction here, I think, Pisces. Because again, the Hangman is a card of changing your perspective, of looking at things in a new way. So you're going to take sort of I feel like you're going to take sort of the opposite tactic to Aquarius Sun, Pisces, where they're going to be doing more of the prospective stuff, more of the future-oriented stuff. A lot of what you'll be doing is retrospective and reformative in nature when it comes to your world for this week. Again, we're dealing with it's putting our social life and our personal material concerns at loggerheads. And you're going to be dealing more, I think, Pisces, with the with your material concerns than necessarily with friendships. So this is a good time to review, perhaps where you've been investing too much of your time and energy in trying to make friends when what you ought to be doing is getting your house in order. For Aries, we have the Five of Swords, indicating struggle on the horizon. This card is two things at once, Aries. It is both a portent of victory and a warning against overconfidence. Um, you will get what you want out of this week, whatever that you choose to do, but you have to be careful not to overshoot. You do not get do not get greedy, and but more than that, don't overextend. Um, for you, this is less about extending yourself in any active, directed way, but more of taking what comes and making the best of what comes, which requires you, Aries, to be much more reactive than proactive, which is not a thing that you like to be doing. Um, us Aries sons, we like to leap ahead, take charge, and make the moves. The moves are being made to us. We have to allow them to do that. Overextending has the potential to lessen or may possibly even to ruin all of the good that we might gain from this energy while it's in play. So let things come to you and then act. Do not act preemptively. You may close doors to yourself that would be better to leave open. For Taurus, we have the Eight of Wands. Um, Rapid movement. Just. It's 3, 2, 1, blast off, and off you go this week, Taurus. And for a sign where speed kills, you are a very I won't say intractable Taurus, but you do have a tendency not to move until either prepared or pressed. Um, this will be pressing motion. You will have to move quickly. Um, but it will also be to your benefit. In order to reconcile, again, like I say, the distinction between what you have in terms of again, the material concerns that you're dealing with, and in between revisions to material concerns and the desire for new social circles, you're going to have to do a lot very, very quickly, which will probably be uncomfortable for you, but ultimately be to your benefit. Unlike Aries, who needs to wait before they can act, Taurus, the more proactive you are this week, the better. If you're already moving, it will not be hard to get up to speed. If you're not moving yet, it will be much more difficult to get started and then speed up than if you're already going. For Gemini, we have the Emperor. Lots of Aries energy radiates off this card, which is no surprise. Aries and the Emperor are very, very closely linked. Um, and again, I'm going to give you, Gemini, much the same advice that I just gave Taurus, which is to be a little bit more ram-headed. Um, Channel some of that cardinal fire energy if you can, Gemini, and really try to take charge and make decisions, because in this instance, with this energy at play, you already know what is to be gained. Um, you already sort of you have dominion over what is going on in your world right now. You sort of have the lay of the land already as this energy comes in, Gemini. and it will allow you to make authoritative moves. You are in control. You are in command. Show them what that means. For Cancer, we have the Eight of Pentacles. It's a card of fastidiousness and of hard work. But also, like I said, fastidiousness. This is indicative of a solid work ethic. Whatever needs to be done this week, Cancer, you can, should, must, and hopefully will put your nose to the grindstone and get it done. The energy is behind you to do this. So, no matter how daunting the task may seem, you have it within you to get it done, Cancer, but you need to put the work in, and there will be a lot of work to put in for this. But you can do it. It's just that you're going to have to labor at it. For Leo, we have the Two of Wands. It is important for you, Leo, not to miss the forest for the trees. Actually, let me reverse that. It is important for you not to miss the trees for the forest. The Two of Wands depicts a man overlooking his kingdom with a globe in his hands. And so it's a card about dreams of grandeur and of desiring greater things, but it is also one of overlooking the successes and the wealth and the joys that one already has. The Two of Cups, the Two of Wands has a lot in common with the Five of Cups in that something is being overlooked in favor of something else. With the Five of Cups, it's focusing on loss rather than, in favor of what remains. This is a little bit different. This is focusing too much on one's dreams and less on what one has already achieved. So you need to be a little bit more retrospective than forward-looking, Leo, this week. Which will be easy enough to do given that the sun is opposite your sun sign currently. It will be a lot easier for you to tap into the Taurus energy of this aspect, although that too will be difficult because it is a square. You Leo Sun, form a T-square to this. However, the point of that square is Uranus and Taurus, and so what you will need to do is focus on that Uranian energy. And like I say, be a little bit more retrospective than prospective in terms of the work that you choose to do this week. It's a little bit more about cleaning up an old mess than trying to introduce any new toys into the toy box. What's up, sweetie? Sorry, I could hear my cat crying. I don't know what's wrong with her. For Virgo, we have the Page of Swords. For those of you who follow Nine Nights Wisdom on Facebook and Instagram, you saw this card recently. The Page of Swords was Saturday's draw, I believe. And again, it's all about, you're holding this new thing, this sword, for the first time. You know that it can cut, but you don't really know what you're doing with it yet. You're going to lean, Virgo, a little bit more on the Aquarian than on the Taurus stuff, which is probably a good thing. Uranus in Taurus is currently squared to your natal sun, or not square, I'm sorry, trine. So it's a really easy avenue for that energy to flow, and you want to force yourself out of that comfortable rut. You know, with new ideas and new thoughts and new ways of approaching the social circle. Take them in hand gingerly at first. Go slowly. Really allow yourself to understand what all is at play before you firmly wrap your hand around the handle of the sword and start swinging it. It's not to say that you can't learn quickly, but at first you will not know what you're doing with it yet. So be patient with yourself. Go slowly. But again, you're going to be leaning a lot more on the Aquarius side of this than the Taurus side of this, Virgo. Even though it would naturally be a lot easier for you to lean towards the Uranian energy rather than the solar. Avoid falling into that trap, Virgo. Oh. For Libra, we have the Eight of Cups. And you will also be leaving things behind. You connect to both sides of this aspect in an interesting way, Libra, because Taurus is your sister sign being ruled by Venus. Both you and Taurus are ruled by Venus. That's where Uranus is. So your sister sign has one of the two aspects. And your air sign cousin Aquarius has the sun in it, which is currently trine to you. So a lot of this is... there's much about this that will feel familiar to you, Libra. Nothing about this is terribly foreign or unknown to you. And it seems to me that of the signs, you'll probably have the easiest time synthesizing what's going on, because the Eight of Cups is a card of leaving the old behind. This differs a little from the Six of Swords, which is the other card of journeys, in that the Six of Swords takes the Six Swords with him. He's carrying everything he has and going someplace new. The Eight of Cups is leaving everything behind and going someplace new. So, for you, Libra, I think that the two things, the 11th and 2nd house concerns, are a little bit more interwoven here. You're going to be leaving behind friendships that don't serve, things that no longer have the same value as they once did once you've made that estimation, and letting them go in favor of the new thing. So rather than leaning particularly heavily towards one side or the other, the way some of the other zodiac signs are doing, you're going to be doing both things at the same time. The work of reevaluating what you value is so that you can proceed towards the new stuff in the 11th house where it comes to friendship and social circles. You sort of have to purge the old to embrace the new. This is like clearing out your Facebook friends of people you don't talk to so that you can get a different news feed, kind of. It's less banal than that. It's less trifling than that. It's much more important than that sort of thing. But it's just an analogy. All right. I think we've got 3 more to go. Yes. Scorpio. The Empress. Speaking of Venus. Gemini with the Emperor and Scorpio with the Empress. Perfectly bisecting, almost perfectly bisecting the horoscope. You see it over my shoulder. Oh, I'm pointing the wrong hand. Gemini is here, and Scorpio is almost directly opposite it. They're the front and back of that half of the zodiac if you split it there. So the Emperor and the Empress are kind of bookends, which is interesting for this week. But directly to your week ahead, Scorpio, rather than musing on astrological interest. Um, the Empress is a much more feminine ruling and generative energy than the Emperor is, where Gemini is sort of being given the impetus to go forth and conquer. You're being given the opportunity to play much more of a backseat role, like Leo, because you're also a fixed sign. This is also a T square to your natal sun. However, roughly, it's kind of loose. But, however, where for Leo, Taurus was the point, for you, Aquarius is the point. And so the way to reconcile sort of your desire for things to remain the same and at the same time your need to reevaluate what already exists is just to introduce new things into the mix. It will force you to sort of reevaluate, like the new friendships, the new friends, or the new approach to the social circle will force you to reevaluate your value systems and the way that you've done things in the past, sort of the status quo of your life, by introducing new things into it. Sun in Aquarius is the solution for you. You have to lean on it a little bit. Once again, leaning a little bit more on the Aquarian energy than necessarily blending the two, but not also totally ignoring what's going on in Taurus either. Goodness. For Sagittarius, we have the Four of Pentacles. And for me, I think this is a peculiar card for probably the most free-spirited sun sign in the zodiac, in that the Four of Pentacles represents a place where you're clinging too much to something you would do better to let go of. This is the way that, much like Aries, there's a sort of a reactive rather than proactive thing about this. But instead of Aries needing to wait to see what the lay of the land is before they start running around in it, what you need to do is more accept and embrace things as they are. You need to let things be what they are and understand that the energy that's going on right now is a natural part of the process of living. Every now and then reevaluation is called for. Every now and then you need to measure things, and sometimes you're going to find that things and people are found wanting. They leave you wanting more, which is not necessarily a good thing, and you need to let them go rather than cling to what used to be. Much of this, Sagittarius, much of what I'm getting from this card feels like clinging to a past that is long gone. It is time to let it go. For Capricorn, last but most certainly not least, the Three of Wands. We are looking, as we often do, towards a new horizon. Capricorn suns, you are rather, I shouldn't say we. I'm a Capricorn rising, not a Capricorn sun. But it's looking out over looking out at new horizons. This is sort of similar to the Two of Wands that we saw earlier. In dreaming of what might be, but there's less of the connotation with this that there is something being overlooked in favor of those eyes on the horizon. The sun has just left your sign. It's in the sign next door, so it's nice and close. Those of you born in the later degrees of Capricorn might even still have this, might even still be at the tail end of your solar return. In which case, happy belated birthday. Um, but yeah, this is sort of there's you're getting I'm getting a lot of star energy out of this in terms of the draw from the tarot cards that represent this week's aspect. You've much more got your eyes fixed on the horizon, on the future, on some distant sign or maybe dream of the way that you would like things to be. Consider this one step towards that horizon. But again, that also requires you to sort of bring your focus down um, to the more immediate ways of getting there and start trying to chart the course from beginning to end rather than from end to beginning, although you certainly can do both. But I do think that now is the time to make those first moves for you, Capricorn Suns, towards bringing that dream to life, making it a reality, and again, chasing it down. So that's Tarot Tuesday for the week. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. I will be back on January 31st. Until then, see you next week.